After I won $45 million in the lottery, my entire extended family suddenly appeared, demanding I share the money. I pretended to go bankrupt to see who would actually stick by me. It turns out the biggest traitor was the person I trusted most. Before all this, my life was beige. Not bad, just beige. My name is Claire, I'm 29, and until recently my biggest financial thrill was finding an extra $10 bill in a coat pocket from last winter. I worked a 9-to-5 office job in data entry. It was exactly as exciting as it sounds. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment where the landlord considered vintage charm to be a synonym for never updated. My social life was small, but it was mine. I wasn't unhappy, but I was in a comfortable, predictable rut. Every month was a careful balancing act of rent, student loans, utilities, and the occasional splurge on takeout to feel alive. Then, one Tuesday, the universe decided to throw a grenade into my beige little life. I rarely play the lottery. It always felt like a tax on people who are bad at math. But that day, the jackpot was enormous, one of those historic, headline-grabbing numbers. The convenience store clerk was talking about it, and on a whim, I bought a single $2 ticket with my morning coffee. I shoved it in my wallet and promptly forgot about it. 3 days later, on a Friday night, I was scrolling through the news on my phone while eating leftover pizza. A headline popped up, "Mega jackpot winning tickets sold in our city." I chuckled. Imagine. Then, a little jolt went through me. The ticket. I fished my wallet out of my purse, my heart doing a funny little pitter-patter. I pulled up the winning numbers. I stared. I checked again. And again. I went to the official lottery website, my vision blurring. It couldn't be real. This was the kind of thing that happened to other people, to characters, in movies. Not to Claire, the data entry clerk with a charmingly leaky faucet. I stood up, walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and came back. The numbers were still there. They hadn't changed. The official prize was something like $78 million. After taking the lump sum and paying the soul-crushing taxes, I was left with a number that still didn't feel real. Just over $45 million. For the first hour, I just sat on my floor, alternating between hysterical laughter and silent, tearful shock. My entire life had just been rewritten. The student loan debt that felt like a concrete block chained to my ankle? Gone. The anxiety of an unexpected car repair? A joke. The dream of owning a small house with a garden? Something that felt decades away? I could buy it tomorrow. In cash. The first two people I called were Morgan and Qley. My best friend and my younger sister, the only two people that I would trust to share about this. I swore them to absolute ironclad secrecy. Their reactions were what you'd expect. Screaming, disbelief, more screaming. We had a tearful, joyous three-way call where we planned our futures. I wasn't going to be an idiot. I told them my plan. Hire a lawyer and a financial advisor before I even claimed the ticket. Pay off my debts. Buy a modest but beautiful home. Set up a trust for my parents so they could retire comfortably. And then, invest the rest wisely so I would never, ever have to worry about money again. I was adamant about this. I wasn't going to be one of those lottery horror stories. But then, the leak happened almost immediately. I still don't know exactly how. In my state, you can claim winnings through a trust to remain anonymous. And that was my lawyer's first piece of advice. We were meticulous. But somehow, the news got out. At first, I thought maybe I'd been careless. Or maybe the lawyer's assistant had loose lips. I refused to even consider that Morgan or Qley would have said anything. It was impossible. Unthinkable. My parents? I love them, of course, but our relationship is surface level. I don't talk much with them. They're good people, but pathologically non-confrontational. They belong to that generation that believes in keeping the peace at all costs, even if it means letting someone walk all over you. If a relative publicly insulted them at a holiday dinner, they'd just offer them more mashed potatoes with a strained smile. They are sweet, gentle, and utterly incapable of standing up for themselves or anyone else. I learned early on not to share my complex problems with them, because their advice would always be to just let it go, or be the bigger person, which is often code for let them win. As for the rest of my family, the constellation of aunts, uncles, and cousins, they were basically Christmas card acquaintances. We'd see each other once, maybe twice a year. The conversations were a predictable script. How's work? Still single? You've put on some weight. They knew nothing about my struggles, my dreams, my fears. And frankly, they never showed any interest. I was just a name on a branch of the family tree they barely glanced at. But the leak wasn't just Claire won the lottery. It was specific. People knew the amount. They knew my plans to help my parents. Details that only a very, very small circle of people could have known. A cold knot of suspicion started to form in my gut, but I pushed it down. It had to be a coincidence. Maybe a close relative had guessed, and it spread like wildfire. I couldn't let myself think the unthinkable. Or I should have. Looking back now, I realize I could never have imagined that someone so close had always been the snake at my side. Can you guess who it was? Let me know in the comment. The phone calls started a week after I claimed the money. First, it was a slow trickle, then it became a flood. Numbers I hadn't seen in a decade popped up on my screen. Distant relatives I could barely place. My great-aunt Susan, who I think I'd met twice in my life, called me sobbing. She went on for 10 minutes about her leaky roof and her husband's bad back, before gently reminding me that she once gave me a piece of candy when I was 6, and that family helps family. The whiplash from her sob story to her entitled demand was stunning. Then came my cousin Mark. He wanted a small loan of $250,000 to start a revolutionary new business. When I asked for a business plan, he got defensive. "It's all up here," he said, presumably tapping his head. "You just have to trust me. We're blood." They started showing up at my apartment, unannounced. My dingy little one-bedroom became a pilgrimage site for the greedy. They'd bring stale cookies and hollow compliments, their eyes scanning my small space as if looking for where I'd hidden the bags of cash. The conversations were all the same, a thinly veiled dance around the one thing they wanted to know. How much are you giving me? It was suffocating. The joy and relief of winning were being systematically drained from me, replaced by paranoia and disgust. My beige, predictable life was gone, but it hadn't been replaced by the vibrant, free life I'd imagined. It had been replaced by a circus, and I was the unwilling main attraction. The initial wave of requests was just the appetizer. The main course of human avarice was yet to be served. It seemed my extended family had decided that my lottery win was not a personal stroke of luck, but a collective family fund that I was merely the custodian of. I found out through my mother that they had started holding family council meetings. Without me, of course. My parents were invited, not as my representatives, but as hostages to be pressured. My mom called me one night, her voice trembling. "Claire, honey, Aunt Carol and Uncle Robert are saying some things." "What things, Mom?" I asked, my voice already tired. "Well, they're saying you're young, you don't need all that money. That it's a blessing for the whole family, not just for you. Uncle Robert said he remembers changing your diapers, and that this is your chance to show your gratitude." Changing my diapers, that was his justification for his 7-figure handout. The absurdity was breathtaking. They were literally creating a ledger of every minor kindness they'd ever shown me, real or imagined, and presenting me with the bill. The arguments they used were a masterclass in emotional manipulation and gaslighting. This money is the luck of the entire bloodline. It's not right for one person to hoard it. Your great-grandmother would be so disappointed to see you being so selfish. We're your elders. You owe us respect, and that means sharing your good fortune. When their wheedling and guilt-tripping didn't work, some of them turned aggressive. My cousin Mark, the one with the revolutionary business idea, started posting vague but pointed statuses on Facebook about people who forget where they come from, and snakes who show their true colors when they get a little money. Other relatives would comment in agreement, a digital chorus of resentment. They started harassing my parents directly, calling them day and night, pressuring them to, quote, talk some sense into me. My poor, gentle parents were completely unequipped to handle it. They just absorbed the abuse, their passivity acting as a green light for the vultures to get even nastier. The absolute, final, soul-crushing straw came about a month into this nightmare. It was from my Aunt Carol, the self-appointed matriarch of the greedy council. She had always been the loudest, the most entitled. She'd left me a series of increasingly unhinged voicemails, but I'd ignored them all. One afternoon, I got a fraud alert from my bank, a suspicious login attempt from an IP address I didn't recognize. I called the bank, my heart hammering. They confirmed someone had tried and failed to answer my security questions. They had my mother's maiden name, my childhood street, but they failed on my first pet's name. I just knew. I did a little digging. The IP address was from a public library just 2 blocks from Aunt Carol's house. She had tried to steal my money. Not ask for it, not demand it, but log into my account and take it. That was the moment something inside me snapped. The hurt, the confusion, the disappointment, it all flash froze and hardened into something else. Ice-cold rage. They didn't see me as Claire. They didn't see a niece, a cousin, a person. They saw a walking, talking ATM. And when it wasn't dispensing cash on demand, they decided to try and crack it open with a crowbar. The love I had for these people, however tenuous it might have been, evaporated in that instant. It was gone. All that was left was a burning, clarifying anger. They wanted a show? Fine. I was going to give them the performance of a lifetime. My plan was born from that fire. It was audacious, a little bit crazy, and deeply, deeply satisfying. I wasn't just going to cut them off. That was too simple. I was going to make them show their true faces to the world, so unequivocally that no one could ever doubt what they were. I was going to fake my own financial ruin. The first call I made was to my lawyer. The second was to a new, top-tier financial advisor at a private firm. I explained the situation. They were, to my relief, not even that surprised. "You'd be amazed how common this is," the advisor, a sharp woman named Evelyn, told me. "We spent a week restructuring everything. The bulk of my fortune was moved into a series of complex, ironclad, irrevocable trusts. My name was taken off everything liquid. We set up a shell corporation, a completely anonymous LLC, and transferred the deed of the new house I'd just bought into its name. On paper, I was no longer a multimillionaire. I was just me again, but this time with a massive secret safety net. Now for the trap. The doubt about the initial leak had never fully left me. It was a splinter in my mind. How did they know so much, so fast? I trusted Morgan and Qley implicitly, but trust had gotten me into this mess. I had to know for sure. I hated myself for it, but I had to test them. I decided to create two very specific, very different pieces of bait. I called Qley first, putting on my best, on the verge of a breakdown voice. My acting skills, it turns out, are phenomenal when fueled by pure rage. "Qley?" I started, my voice cracking. I messed up. I messed up so bad." "Claire, what's wrong? You sound awful." Her concern sounded so genuine it almost made me stop. Almost. "I took some bad advice." I sobbed into the phone. "A friend of a friend, he worked in investments. He promised these huge returns. It was supposed to be a sure thing. I put in a huge chunk, Qley. A huge chunk. And it's gone. All of it. It was a scam." "Oh my God, Claire. How much?" "I don't even want to say. It's bad. It's really, really bad. I think I might have to sell Grandma's pearl necklace just to cover some immediate costs. It's the only thing of value I have left that's not tied up in this mess." The pearl necklace. It was our grandmother's most prized possession, and she had left it to me. Qley knew how much it meant to me. It was a deeply personal, emotional detail. A detail I told to no one else. A couple of hours later, I called Morgan. I gave him the same sob story about the bad investment. He was furious on my behalf, threatening to hunt down the scammer. Then, I dropped the second piece of bait. "It's just the timing is the worst," I said, sniffling. "I was about to close on that little piece of investment property up near Pine Ridge. A small cabin, you know. But now I'm going to lose my deposit. I'm going to lose everything." The Pine Ridge property. A complete fabrication. A specific, tangible asset that I mentioned only to Morgan. The trap was set. Now it was time to build the stage. Step 1. I went completely dark. I changed my number and only gave the new one to my parents, Qley and Morgan. All calls and texts from the extended family went unanswered. Step 2. The for sale sign went up in front of my beautiful new house. It was, of course, a theatrical prop. The house wasn't for sale. It was just being officially occupied by my anonymous LLC. Step 3. I needed a town crier. I chose my cousin Sarah, a notorious gossip who couldn't keep a secret if her life depended on it. I sent her a carefully worded, accidental text message, pretending it was meant for Qley. "Can't believe it's all gone. The crypto crash wiped me out. Have to sell the house. Don't know what I'm going to do. Please don't tell anyone. I'm so embarrassed." I knew that was like handing a lit match to a pyromaniac in a fireworks factory. The news would be all over the family group chat within the hour. Step 4. The performance. I moved into a cheap, depressing rental apartment on the other side of town. I started driving my old, beat-up 2008 Honda Civic again. I even created a new, private Instagram account and posted a few sad, vague pictures. A cup of instant noodles, with the caption, "Back to basics," a view of a brick wall from my new window. I was officially, publicly, spectacularly broke. All I had to do now was wait for the rats to react to the sinking ship. The effect was instantaneous. And absolute. My phone, which had been buzzing nonstop with demands and sob stories, fell completely silent. It was jarring. The constant low-level hum of harassment I had grown accustomed to was just gone. No calls, no texts, no unannounced visits. It was like a switch had been flipped. The circus had packed up and left town the moment they heard the cash registers were empty. The silence from them was more damning than their noise had ever been. Then came the second wave, the schadenfreude. The family gossip mill, which I had so expertly primed, went into overdrive. My cousin Sarah did not disappoint. My mother, bless her heart, would forward me screenshots from the family Facebook group, thinking she was keeping me informed. They were brutal. Called it. More money than sense, Uncle Robert. See? Easy come, easy go. That's what happens when you're greedy and don't share with your family. Aunt Carol. Good thing we never got a penny from her. Would have just been throwing good money after bad, Cousin Mark. They were gloating. They were celebrating my downfall. The same people who had claimed to love me, who had invoked our shared blood as a reason for me to give them my money, were now dancing on the grave of my supposed fortune. They even turned on my parents, calling them failures for raising such a stupid and irresponsible daughter. I read these messages with a strange sense of calm. Every word was just another nail in the coffin of my old life, and I was the one holding the hammer. I was gathering my receipts, and the bill was going to be astronomical. Throughout all this, Morgan was a saint. He called every day. He offered to lend me money, which was laughable, given his own financial situation, but the gesture meant the world. He brought me groceries. He sat with me in my crappy new apartment and let me cry on his shoulder, never once saying "I told you so" about the shady investment. He was just Morgan, my rock. The Pine Ridge property was never mentioned again. Qley was different. She called, yes. She said all the right words. "I'm so sorry, Claire. This is so unfair. You'll get through this." But there was something hollow in her voice, a distance that hadn't been there before. When I talked about how scared I was, her sympathy felt rehearsed. I chalked it up to her not knowing how to handle the situation. I didn't want to believe anything else. The real truth came about 2 weeks into my poverty. It came, as I knew it would, from the mouth of the nastiest of them all, Aunt Carol. She called my new number, which she must have wheedled out of my poor mother. I let it go to voicemail, but she called back. And again. And again. On the 5th try, I decided to answer. I put it on speaker, a morbid curiosity compelling me to hear what she had to say now. "What do you want, Carol?" she screeched, without so much as a hello. The venom in her voice could have curdled milk. "Excuse me," I said, my voice flat. "Don't you? Excuse me. I know what you're doing. You think you're so clever, don't you?" I was confused. "What are you talking about?" "All this, oh, I'm so poor, I lost all my money, nonsense. Pathetic. You're just trying to get out of your obligations to this family." I was about to hang up, to dismiss it as a desperate conspiracy theory from a bitter woman. But then she said the words that shattered my entire world. "Stop playing games with me, you little brat. I know everything. You're so broke you're about to sell Grandma's pearl necklace. Your own grandmother's legacy. You ungrateful, selfish little monster. Instead of selling it to some stranger, you should be giving us the money." I heard the words, but my brain couldn't process them. The pearl necklace. Time stopped. The sound of the traffic outside my window faded away. The air in my lungs turned to ice. There was a roaring in my ears. The pearl necklace. A detail known by exactly one other person on the face of the earth. A secret I had entrusted to my little sister, my Qley. In that one horrifying moment, everything clicked into place with sickening clarity. The initial leak. The specific details only she knew. Her hollow sympathy. Her distance. It wasn't just that she had told them. She had been on their side the whole time. She had sat in on those family council meetings, not as my defender, but as their informant. She had listened to me cry, pretending to be my confidant, while secretly laughing at me with them. She had fed them the bait I gave her, hook, line, and sinker, using my most vulnerable secret as a weapon against me. The betrayal was so profound, so absolute, it felt like a physical blow. It wasn't a snake in the grass I had to worry about. It was the one I had welcomed into my home, the one I had nurtured and protected my entire life. I don't remember what I said to Aunt Carol. I think I just hung up. I slid down the wall in my cheap rental apartment and sat on the floor, the phone still clutched in my hand. The rage was gone. The satisfaction of my plan was gone. All that was left was a chasm of pain, so deep I thought it might swallow me whole. I had won $45 million, and in the process, I had lost the one thing I thought was truly priceless. I spent the next 24 hours in a haze of grief. I cried until I had no tears left. I mourned the sister I thought I had. I mourned the trust I had so freely given. And then, as the sun rose on the second day, the grief began to recede, leaving behind a cold, hard resolve. She had made her choice. Now I would make mine. I called Qley and asked her to meet me at a coffee shop, a neutral, public place. I needed there to be witnesses. I didn't trust myself to be alone with her. She walked in, her face a perfect mask of sisterly concern. "Claire, are you okay? You sounded so strange on the phone." I didn't waste time. I just looked her dead in the eye. "How did Aunt Carol know about Grandma's necklace?" The color drained from her face. It was the first genuine emotion I'd seen from her in weeks. Panic. "What? I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me, Qley," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "Don't you dare lie to me now. I told you. And only you. So I'll ask again, how did she know?" She started to stammer, to weave a story about how maybe Mom knew and let it slip, but she couldn't look me in the eye. Her gaze darted around the coffee shop, looking for an escape. It wasn't Mom, I said, cutting her off. Mom didn't know. No one knew. Just you. That's when the mask crumbled. The fake concern was replaced by tears, not of remorse, but of frustration at being caught. I don't know. Maybe I mentioned it. They were putting so much pressure on me, she sobbed. Pressure to do what? To betray me? And then, the final, ugliest truth came out. The tears turned to anger. The victimhood turned to resentment. Oh, come on, Claire. It was so easy for you. You just got lucky. One stupid ticket, and suddenly, you're a millionaire, looking down on all of us. Do you have any idea what it's like to be your little sister? Always in your shadow, and then suddenly you have everything, and I have nothing? Why you? Why was it always you? There it was. The jealousy that had been festering beneath the surface for years. The lottery win hadn't created it. It had just given it the light and air it needed to grow into something monstrous. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry she got caught. I stood up, my coffee untouched. Thank you for your honesty, I said, my voice devoid of all emotion. You've made this next step much easier. I walked out without looking back. That evening, I executed the final phase of my plan. I didn't call a family meeting. They weren't worthy of that kind of confrontation. Instead, I created a new group chat. I added every single aunt, uncle, and cousin who had harassed me, celebrated my downfall, or been part of the council, and I added Qley. Then I sent a single, long message. I attached screenshots of their cruel Facebook posts, the threatening texts, and a transcript of the fraud alert from my bank. To my dearest family, thank you. Thank you for the masterclass in human nature you have provided me over these past few months. When I was rich, you were my best friends. When I was poor, I became the butt of your jokes and the target of your contempt. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but your celebration was premature. The rumor of my bankruptcy was just that, a rumor. A little social experiment I conducted to see what would happen, and you all played your parts beautifully. For the record, my financial situation is just fine. In fact, it's excellent. The money is all there, safely tucked away in trusts that none of you will ever see a single cent of. Every single one of you who turned your back on me, who harassed my parents, who gloated at my supposed failure, is hereby cut out of my life, permanently. You will receive nothing, no loans, no gifts, no handouts, ever. Consider this your official notice. Please lose this number. Oh, and one last thing. Qley, thank you for teaching me the most expensive lesson of all. That story about Grandma's pearl necklace? Your performance was truly convincing. You didn't just lose a potential inheritance today, you lost a sister. Don't ever contact me again. I hit send. Then, one by one, I blocked every single number. I deactivated all my old social media. I wiped the slate clean. The fallout was, predictably, nuclear. They tried to get through on my parents' phones. They left dozens of hysterical, screaming voicemails, alternating between threats, curses, and pathetic, syrupy apologies. It was a symphony of entitled rage, and for the first time, I listened to it and felt nothing but peace. It's been a few months now. The noise has died down. I sold the decoy house and bought another one in a different state under the LLC's name. My parents, after a long, difficult conversation where I finally laid out the depth of the betrayal, are starting to understand. They're in therapy, learning to build a spine, and I've set up their retirement trust, managed by Evelyn, so they never have to worry. Morgan, my true brother, helped me pack. He was horrified when I told him the full story about Qley. He's my only real family now, and that's okay. Quality over quantity. My life is finally vibrant. I'm traveling. I've started a small, anonymous charitable foundation for underprivileged students in my old city. I'm learning to play the guitar. I am free. The $45 million didn't buy me happiness. It bought me a magnifying glass. It showed me the ugly, hidden truths in my life and gave me the power to cut out the cancer. It was the most expensive, most painful, and ultimately the most liberating purchase I've ever made.